hard to believe that almost 50 years ago, in fact it may be 50 years ago now, I found myself in a small hotel in Fiji. And yeah, you've got that right, in the islands, right? And it was a life-changing thing for me. But here's the thing. Most of the people in that hotel didn't venture outside the compound, and they were literally advised not to do so because, quite frankly, there was a stark contrast between what you see in the hotel and what you see outside of it. Well, most of them were there to have a little bit of fun or whatever, and they didn't really care about the sugarcane fields that ran for miles outside. Not horribly large amounts of miles, because there wasn't much there. And it's this sort of thing that's made me want to talk about this idea of in many other countries, and this is the 2.0 version, because I already did one of these. But I want to go ahead and talk about that today on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Friday the 8th of October of 2021, Friday the 8th of October. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you for coming along today. Remember, Rumble is my preferred platform, and the subject for today is in many other countries 2.0, and I'm going to run through my notes pretty quickly just to kind of give you an idea, again, what we're talking about. Probably 30 years ago now, there was an advertisement for one of those entities who tried to make other parts of the world more livable. And I should say that's a laudable thing. I'm not against that. There was a young starlet who breathlessly intoned the fact that houses in the Philippines had, gasp, no walls. Well, I had been outside the United States from the time I was 7 or 8. And so again, that's basically 50 years ago. As I've said, in Australia, though not in the most civilized parts of that country, was where I was. On the north coast of that gigantic island, you're riding the tropics. In fact, Darwin in the Northern Territory is within the Tropic of Capricorn. So you're literally in a tropical climate when you're there. We had no air conditioning in Darwin. Instead, we had ceiling and other fans, and entire walls of our house were louvered. You could open up almost the entire side of the house. The point here is, though we had windows and screens, something folks in the Philippines lacked, may not now, I don't know, you could argue our house, quote, had no walls, end of quote. That's not really entirely true, but you get what I'm saying. Without a perspective like that, people are likely to be genuinely shocked by the idea of a domicile without uprights, without walls. Because I had that viewpoint, what she said made me yawn. It was, so, what are you trying to say? That goes right along with people talking about folks making $1 a day working in the sweatshop of an American or Japanese company. Excuse me. What does that amount look like when compared to local wages? And as one of the talkers I listened to said, can't recall if it was Dinesh D'Souza, Drew Berquist, or who, making that money may very well keep a young lady out of the sex trade. She may end up not being a prostitute as a result. Oh, that's terrible. I get it. You know, you claim that she's working for horrible amounts of money. I get that. I still remember how low-ranking airmen in the Philippines were renting villas on the local economy. Not houses, villas. That's how much their money was worth. Can you really compare many other countries to a nation like Australia or the United States? Yes, but only if you make various adjustments. As an Indian boss I had years ago said, most Americans would all but die trying to live in India. Now, it's probably a little better now. I don't know how much, but some. Thinking about these things, when you hear people making comparisons between many countries and the often far more prosperous and advanced West, is in your best interest. You should seriously think about things like this. All right, I'm done with my notes. One thing that I promised myself I would cover today. I spent a couple of years in the Republic of Korea, and one of those years, the second time I was there, I was a young sergeant, staff sergeant I think at the time, more or less, staff sergeant, in the Air Force. And there was a lady who cleaned the dormitories, or at least part of it. I think she had a floor or two in the dorm in which I lived at the time. My wife at the time was in the United States with our children. Well, that young lady, I paid, it was either $20 a payday or $20 a month to clean my room. She never complained. She was happy. She did a good job. I told her a time or two about things that she did that I didn't care for, and she adjusted her way of doing business, and all for $20 a pay period or a month. So either $20 every 2 weeks or $20 a month. $40 regardless, even then, would in fact buy you probably 5 or 6 meals if you were eating stag like I was at the time. But here's the thing. Most rooms had 2 people in them, so she made either $40 a month or $80 a month for each room she worked on. The rooms were small. The people mostly who were in them were generally fairly tidy. I'm sure she had a few that were not so much so, but most of them were. She did laundry. She vacuumed floors. She cleaned toilets and tubs. You know, very simple, very basic stuff. Made sure there was bedding on the beds. And that's basically what that woman did. That was her job. Here's what you need to understand. She probably did that for maybe 50 rooms, and most of them had 2 people in them. So basically 100 people. Now I want you to think about this. Paying her $20, whether it was even a month, that's $2,000 a month in 1989. Okay? This woman was raking in the bucks. Now, I don't know if there was somebody that she had to pay to keep that job, to have that job, but I know this. If you compared what she was making to what most folks on the local economy were getting, she was doing very well for herself. And that's also true for the guy who was supplying hats and patches for the base, for Osan Air Base. Mr. Pak, who did most of that, had his own car, which at the time for Koreans was really unheard of. Now, granted, he used it for business. But the point is, he had his own car. Okay? The point I'm trying to make here is simple, really. You try and compare your life with that of people in the Philippines, of people in Korea, of people in China, of people in even Taiwan, which is much better off, of people even in Japan, which is much better off than lots of places, and in some places probably comparable to the United States. But you try and compare yourself to those places. And the first thing that I would say to you is, you are confused if you think it's an apples to apples comparison. It's just not. When you say, oh, he makes $20 a week at this job, $20 a week in that economy may be enough to pay for a house, pay for your food, and make it so that you have rudimentary transportation needs or whatever. And let me just tell you something. His $20 a week may absolutely trump the $15 a week or less that he might make if he were working off the local economy. So I just want you to realize, I just want you to think about this fact that there's this expectation, there's this viewpoint that says that these horrible difference in, seemingly horrible difference in wages between, say, for example, the United States and the Republic of Korea, though Korea is probably stepping up its wage game pretty seriously by this point. You need to understand something, and you need to understand it very clearly. When you say a loaf of, let's say a soda, let's say a liter of soda costs 300 won, the local currency of Korea, which it doesn't anymore, I'm sure it's more. But at the time I was there, you could get a liter of soda on the local economy for 300 won. That's 30 cents. Even if you went to the commissary, you couldn't buy anything that cheaply. It just wasn't that way. I want you to really consider when people throw this, oh, look at these poor people in other countries thing at you, that this is what we're actually looking at. And I want you to realize that this is also why in many instances, even today, the United States is head and shoulders over other countries in the world. Okay, I need to go ahead and wrap up. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Friday, the 8th of October of 2021. The beginning of the Sabbath should be this afternoon for all of you who observe that Sabbath. The rest of the Sabbath will be on Saturday, the 9th of October of 2021. That'll be tomorrow, right? Obviously. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and YouTube. Managed to say thank you, not welcome again. Yay! But the subject of today's video has been in many other countries 2.0. Tomorrow we're going to talk about flipping the coin, and I'm going to have to do some thinking about that because I had an idea and I realized that I didn't write the idea down. So I'm going to have to think about that and figure out exactly what it was that I was talking about. It has to do with health and particularly dying, and I think it probably had to do with COVID-19, but I'm going to have to figure out exactly what that was all about. In any case, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're having a good start of the weekend, which many people consider Friday to be. Hope things are going well for you, and hopefully we will see you on Saturday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Friday, October 8th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.